This happened a little over 2 months ago. I am 48 years old and my wife is 45. Together, we have two sons, aged 21 and 23, as well as a 19-year-old daughter. Throughout our family's journey, my youngest daughter had always been a daddy's girl. I used to indulge her, buying her whatever she desired and spoiling her with affection. This continued until she reached the age of womanhood. At that point, she began feeling more comfortable discussing women-related topics with her mom, and their bond grew stronger. Despite this shift, I still maintain a positive relationship with my daughter. As she grew closer to her mom, I took a different role in her life. I became the father figure and the one responsible for discipline, not only for her, but also her older brothers. Her mom became her best friend, and I was left with the responsibility of becoming the parents. They supported each other in everything they did. My wife was someone who cherished living in the present moment. She relished talking with my daughter about which boys found her attractive and who she might be interested in. Normal teenage girl stuff, I thought. They both were also quite active on Instagram and Facebook, frequently sharing posts and taking pleasure in reading the comments from others. Our daughter, at a young age, had a significant following on Instagram. I was told that this was common for attractive women on platforms like Instagram. As for me, I was more of the old school type. I never really got caught up in the social media craze. When my daughter turned 17, I was surprised to discover that she had been in a relationship since she was 15. Her mother had always known about it, and they would discuss the ups and downs of teenage dating. My wife teasingly calls me a dinosaur because I was unaware that this was considered normal for teenagers in today's world. Eventually, I came to accept that it was part of modern teenage life. I didn't want it to become a source of conflict between my wife, my daughter, and me. However, what I couldn't come to terms with was the idea of her dating multiple boys at such young age. That's where I drew the line. They were aware of my traditional views when it comes to dating. In my perspective, a typical life path for a young woman involves dating during college with the intention of finding a life partner, marrying after college, and starting a family. This is how I was brought up, and it's how I met my wife. However, my wife had a different viewpoint. She believed that it was normal now for a young woman to date multiple men simultaneously and choosing the right one. I couldn't agree with this approach, and at times I would accuse her of encouraging such behavior. My wife always supported our daughter's perspective on dating, leaving me feeling somewhat helpless. Then, when our daughter turned 18, she began dating a young man who was 2 years older and already in college. Luckily, he was pursuing the same profession as me, and when I got to know him, I was impressed by his character. At that point, I began to reconsider my stance. Maybe I had been too stuck up in my old school ways, and perhaps my daughter and wife's idea of dating in these modern times had some merit. I decided to take a step back and let things unfold naturally. She began inviting her boyfriend to join our family activities, like fishing and outdoor outings. He quickly became an integral part of our family, and my sons also took a liking to him. He carried himself with the utmost respect and shared his sincere intentions for my daughter. He gave me hope because many people, including my wife, had been telling me that traditional relationships were no longer the norm. But here was this young man, clearly not interested in casual dating, parties, or drinking. While they both loved each other, I felt that he might have loved my daughter even more than she loved him. This was perfectly fine because I understood that many relationships, like the one my wife and I had in our early days, had a similar dynamic. It was heartening to see a young man who cared deeply for my daughter and was committed to a genuine and loving relationship. When my daughter was about to start college, my wife shared with me that our daughter plans to move in with her boyfriend off campus. She believed it was cost effective and that being with someone familiar would make the transition smoother. Why I liked her boyfriend, I strongly disagreed with this idea. I believed it was essential for my daughter to learn the lesson of independence and responsibility on campus. I didn't support the notion of a young woman living with a man she wasn't engaged or married to. I made sure my daughter moved into a dormitory instead of living with her boyfriend off campus. However, less than a year later, my daughter's boyfriend approached me and expressed his intention to propose to my daughter. I didn't immediately give my blessing, but I was genuinely impressed by him. It was the first time that I knew something about my daughter's relationship before my wife and daughter did. I decided to hold off on giving my blessing because I wanted to discuss it with my wife first. I also didn't want to approach my daughter about it directly because her boyfriend wanted the engagement news to be a surprise. When I talked to my wife about it, she was completely supportive and had nothing but praise for the young man. I also had a conversation with my daughter about her relationship with him. However, I didn't reveal that he was planning to propose to her. Perhaps she already had the inkling. She told me that she loved him and hoped to spend her life with him. Everything seemed to be falling into place, and I felt proud of how things were unfolding. I gave my daughter's boyfriend my full blessing a few days later, and after they got engaged, they decided to move in together off campus. I was genuinely happy for them because their relationship were growing stronger with each passing day. He was a bright and intelligent young man with promising future, and I wasn't surprised that he wanted to commit to my daughter early on. She was indeed a beautiful young woman, and I couldn't help but notice the attention she received from men as she continued to mature. One day, I overheard my wife talking to my daughter on the phone, which wasn't unusual. However, this time, their conversation was about another guy. It seemed like she had met someone else and was developing feelings for him. Naturally, I was troubled by this revelation, but I didn't want to jump to conclusion. I thought maybe I had misheard or didn't catch the entire conversation. So when my daughter hung up, I asked my wife about it. I inquired if there was any issue in their relationship, and my wife assured me that everything was fine. I pressed further to confirm what I had heard, and my wife insisted that I must have misunderstood. A few days later, I came across a piece of mail addressed to our house from someone whose name I didn't recognize. This prompted me to investigate further, and I discovered that it was another man who had sent something to my daughter. She had it addressed to our home because she didn't want her fiancé to know about the other guy. When I confronted my wife about the situation, she finally admitted that our daughter was dating another guy on the side. I was taken aback by this revelation because I had sincerely hoped for things to work out between her and her fiancé. I tried to console myself with the thought that life doesn't always unfold as we wish it to. Sometimes, despite our best hope, things take unexpected turns. I realized I couldn't control who she falls in love with. Since my daughter had been seeing this other guy for a couple of months, I assumed she had broken things off with her fiancé. Given how close he and I were, and what a gentleman he was, I decided to reach out to him to see how things had been going for him. I felt it was necessary to talk to him, even if their relationship has ended. So I gave him a call, but to my surprise, he had no idea what I was talking about. He seemed completely unaware of any trouble in their relationship and was discussing future plans with my daughter. I felt extremely perplexed and fortunate that I didn't accidentally reveal the situation. After my call with my daughter's fiancé, I discussed the matter with my wife. It troubled me deeply that he was the only one unaware of my daughter dating another man, and my wife seemed to think that it was normal for a young woman in a relationship to have an affair. I strongly disagree with this viewpoint. We ended up having a heated argument about it, and it came down to the fact that my daughter was still young and exploring her identity. Why I understood that, I couldn't help but feel it would be fair to let the other man, with whom she had a committed relationship, know about the situation, rather than keeping him in the dark and leading him on. Honestly, at that time, I was unaware about what to do, so I considered just letting the issue slide, hoping it would resolve itself. I had a lot going in my life, and I didn't want to be consumed with my daughter's secret relationship and my wife's involvement in it. A few months later, my daughter's fiancé called me and expressed concerns about their relationship. He mentioned that my daughter's behavior had changed towards him, and I understood the cause of the issue, but I didn't feel it was my place to reveal the truth. However, this call left a significant impact on me, especially when he would describe how she would go out partying and sometimes not return home. Since I knew very little about the other guy and my wife was not forthcoming with information, I became worried about my daughter's safety. That concern led me to install a GPS tracker on her car to keep an eye on her whereabouts. What I discovered was that my daughter was still attending school frequently, but she was also regularly visiting a specific location where the other man was staying. When I brought this up with my wife, expressing my concern that our daughter was spending time with another man while in a committed relationship, her primary worry seemed to be that I had tracked our daughter, which she viewed as an invasion of her privacy. She accused me of being controlling, which to me sounded unreasonable. My concern were quite different. I worried about our daughter's safety. What if something happened to her? What if the other man posed a threat or was involved in criminal activities? None of these thoughts seemed to cross my wife's mind. All she cared about was losing our daughter's trust and the perspective that I cared more about our daughter's fiancé than our daughter's autonomy. I explained to my wife that my true concern was the potential of violence if our fiancé finds out about the situation in the wrong way. I believe it would be better for our daughter to be honest with him about her feelings and the complexity of their relationship. Although I would prefer my daughter to be with her fiancé, I wasn't entirely opposed to her making her own dating choices. However, what I couldn't condone was her stringing along a good young man. He had done the right thing by approaching me and expressing his intention in good faith. I felt that I would be betraying him if I allowed my daughter to continue this affair. Seeing that my wife wasn't approaching the situation with the maturity it deserved, I decided to address the issue with my daughter. She expressed her desire to continue dating her fiancé while also maintaining a connection with the other guy. I gave her an ultimatum, insisting that she needed to come clean with her fiancé about the affair. I believed that starting a relationship with dishonesty was not the right way to go about things. She argued that he would be heartbroken, to which I responded that it was better for him to hear the truth from her rather than from someone else. After I spoke with my daughter, she approached my wife, hoping to persuade her to keep me out of her romantic life. I understood her desire for privacy, but I genuinely believed that the situation could become dangerous, and I know that I will be the one they turn to when things take a turn for the worst. Realizing that my daughter wasn't going to come clean with her fiancé, I made the difficult decision to call him myself and tell him everything. It was a tough conversation, and he was understandably devastated. I advised him to prioritize his well-being, not to do anything reckless, and reminded him that he was still young. He got the message and decided to break up with my daughter, which left her heartbroken. Word got out about what I had done, and it was disheartening to see that the focus of people's attention was solely the fact that I had exposed my daughter. Nobody seemed concerned about the fact that she had been involved in an affair while in a committed relationship. It made me reflect on the world we live in, where some people lead life filled with lies and dishonesty and expect others to be complicit in their deceit. I have been patient with my wife's immature behavior, acknowledging that it was one of her flaws. However, she possesses many good qualities. She's a dedicated wife who continues to cook for me, takes care of the household, and maintains an active ex-life. She's caring, and overall, she's a good partner. We have a deep understanding of each other, which is an important foundation in our relationship. As for my daughter's now ex-fiancé, he was a friend to my sons, and this situation provided an excellent opportunity for them to learn an important lesson about not staying in a relationship where there's infidelity. I have raised my boys to have strong principles. Currently, my wife is giving me the silent treatment, and my daughter had dropped out of college to move back home, seemingly to get back at me. She wants me to see her every day, knowing that I prefer her to be in school. She frequently cries and raises her voice when I'm around so that I can hear her distress. My wife, meanwhile, walks around giving me disapproving looks to emphasize that she believes I'm responsible for all these troubles. Despite the tension, my wife still serves me a plate after cooking. I am not particularly bothered by the current situation, as I believe my daughter would eventually overcome it. She's been posting negative things about me on her social media accounts, although she does it subtly and not directly. I plan to approach her when she stops posting and is ready to talk. I see this as an opportunity to impact some important life lesson to her. It's worth noting that her breakup with her fiancé occurred just 9 weeks ago, so the wounds are still fresh. I have faced criticism for my action, with people suggesting that I don't care about my daughter's well-being. However, I disagree strongly with this assessment because for several reasons. I believe I am the one who genuinely cares about her well-being. Firstly, I don't know who this other guy was. He stays in the shadows and didn't engage with her parents, which raised concerns about his intention for my daughter. Secondly, my daughter is young and beautiful, so I have no doubt she would have trouble finding another good partner. Lastly, it's crucial to teach her that promiscuous behavior, which my wife had seemingly encouraged since her early teen, is not the right path. Why I believe my wife's behavior may indicate a certain incline to promiscuity, I don't believe she's having an affair. Instead, I see her as somewhat childish, and perhaps feeling that acting like a child helps her stay youthful. Thank you for staying to the end of this video. Please don't forget to support the channel by liking and subscribing. Now let's get some reaction on the comment section. Thank you.